It was Christmas Day when my sister shoved me down the stairs, and while I lay at the bottom, clutching a wrist that I knew was broken, my entire family stood at the top like they were watching a movie. No one rushed down. No one called my name. My mom leaned over the railing and said, "Oh, come on, Jake, you're always so dramatic." And that was it. That was the moment I knew I was done with all of them. But let me back up a bit. If I start here, it sounds like a freak accident, maybe even a misunderstanding. But this was years in the making. That morning, I woke up early and spent hours prepping dinner. The kind of meal you'd see in a holiday commercial. Glazed ham, garlic mashed potatoes, homemade cranberry sauce, even pecan pie from scratch. I scrubbed the floors, arranged candles, ironed cloth napkins, all because my parents said they were too slammed with work to help. My dad runs a contracting business. My mom freelances as an editor. And my sister, Rachel, claimed she had finals to study for. A laughable excuse given I hadn't seen her with a textbook in 2 years. I didn't protest. I just did it, thinking maybe this year, for once, they'd appreciate me. But when dinner was finally ready and the table was set like something out of a magazine, my dad walked in, glanced around, and said, kinda over the top, "Don't you think?" My mom wrinkled her nose and asked why the stuffing wasn't hotter. "Rachel?" She smirked and said, "Well, at least it smells like you tried." I swallowed the lump in my throat and said I'd be right back, that I just needed to grab the good napkins from the hallway closet upstairs. As I reached the landing, Rachel followed me. She was scrolling her phone and said, "You're always in the way," I replied. "I'll be out in a sec." "You always say that," she muttered. And then I felt it. 2 hands on my back. Not a joke, not playful, just a hard shove. The kind that steals your balance before you even know what's happening. I didn't scream, just thudded down the stairs like a sack of rocks. Elbows, shoulder, ribs. But it was my wrist that got the worst of it. I heard the snap before I felt it, and when the pain kicked in, it lit up my whole arm. I tried to sit up, to breathe through it, but my body wasn't cooperating. I looked up and saw them all standing there. Rachel, my mom, my dad, even my younger brother Luke. Rachel laughed like she just saw someone trip on a sitcom. Luke chuckled and said something about cartoon sound effects. My dad went, "Well, maybe don't run up the stairs next time." I didn't respond, just got to my feet, one stair at a time. Vision blurry, pain buzzing. I walked to my room, packed a bag using my good hand, grabbed my laptop and charger, and walked straight out the front door. No one asked where I was going. No one tried to stop me. I took an Uber to the ER. The nurse said it was a clean break, no surgery needed, just a splint and a few weeks off work. She asked what happened. I said I slipped. I paid cash at a cheap motel on the east side and just lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, my wrist throbbing like a war drum. I didn't ice it, didn't take the meds they gave me. I just lay there thinking about all the food I cooked, all the things I cleaned, all the silence that followed my fall. Later that night, I opened my laptop. A file was waiting, just a timestamp, no title. I clicked it. The footage showed the upstairs hallway, me, walking toward the closet, Rachel following too close, her saying something under her breath, and then the shove, deliberate, casual, like brushing crumbs off a table. My body tumbled down and landed in a heap. The camera caught it all. No angle tricks, no ambiguity, just cold, ugly truth. The next part, their reactions. My brother snickering, Rachel shrugging, my mom on her phone, my dad walking away. Not a single person flinched. That's what hit me hardest. Not the fall, not even the break. The way they just stood there like it was background noise. I sat there for a long time, watching the loop again and again, not crying, not angry, just numb. Then I copied the video to a thumb drive, zipped my coat, and took another Uber. I hadn't spoken to Erin in months, an old friend who used to live across the street. But when she opened the door at midnight, hair a mess, wearing a hoodie and mismatched socks, she didn't ask questions. She said, "You okay?" I said, "Not really." She opened the door wider. "I've got microwave waffles. They suck, but they're hot." I stayed on her couch that night, barely slept. Just kept thinking about that fall. The next morning, I went back to the hospital to get my paperwork. Then I took the footage, the report, and my ID to the nearest police station. The desk officer looked half asleep but took my statement, gave me a case number, said someone would follow up. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but at least now it's documented. That same afternoon, I made one more stop, a law office downtown, the kind with too much glass and not enough warmth. I met with a guy named Mark Edelson, civil attorney. Slick tie, slicker hair. Didn't take me seriously until I showed him the footage and the clause in my grandmother's will. Then he sat forward, watched the video twice, said, "They laughed." I nodded. "The audio might complicate things," he said, "but the video is gold. You might actually have a case here." Then he looked at me and said, "Want to send them a letter?" I said yes, and just like that, the first domino fell. The letter went out that Thursday, certified mail, with a firm deadline and a calm but pointed tone. Mark handled the phrasing. He said it's better when it sounds like an opportunity instead of a threat. That's lawyer talk for. We're being polite while aiming a legal cannon at their living room. I didn't hear anything for 2 days. Then my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. 21 missed calls, mostly from my mother. 5 voicemails, one from Rachel, screaming about betrayal, and another from Dad, saying things like, "You're making a mistake," and "family doesn't take family to court." I didn't respond, just turned the phone off and sat on Erin's balcony, sipping burnt coffee from a chipped mug. The air was cold, the kind of cold that bites through denim, but it felt cleaner than anything I'd breathed inside that house. Mark called later that afternoon. "They've got a lawyer," he said. "Of course they do," I said. "They're denying it all, saying you slipped, that the video doesn't show intent." I didn't say anything. They also claim the footage violates their privacy. They might push for charges if you go public. I looked out over the street. A school bus rolled by. Kids shouting through the windows, oblivious to anything beyond that moment. "Let them try," I said. Mark paused for a second. "You're not scared?" "No," I told him, and I meant it. That surprised me. For the first time in my life, I wasn't scared of them. I had truth. They had denial. I knew which one lasted longer. By the next morning, Erin texted me from work. "Your family's here?" I stepped outside her apartment, and sure enough, there they were, standing in a neat little row on the sidewalk. Dad, in his North Face jacket, trying to look calm, Mom clinging to a purse like it held her dignity, Rachel pretending to be bored, and Luke, my younger brother, just looked confused. I didn't go out to meet them, just stood at the window and watched. Eventually, Dad stepped forward, knocked. I opened the door, but didn't let them in. "We need to talk," he said. "No, you need to listen," I said. "Jake," Mom started, "this is all getting blown out of proportion. It was an accident. I have a video." I reminded her. "You filmed us," Rachel snapped. "That's sick." I stared at her. "You pushed me down a flight of stairs. You were blocking the hall," she said. "I nudged you." "No," I said. "You shoved me. I broke my wrist." You laughed. Mom stepped forward. "Can we please not make this uglier than it already is?" I tilted my head. "You think this started with the letter? It started the first time you called me dramatic for crying when Rachel hit me with a shoe. Or maybe it was when you made me pay rent at 17 while she got everything handed to her. We're trying to keep this from becoming a disaster," Dad said. Rachel just got into Northwestern. You really want to ruin that. She ruined that, I said, when she treated me like a punching bag and you all watched. Luke finally spoke. I didn't laugh. He mumbled. I just didn't know what to do. Neither did I said. For 18 years, there was a long silence. Then Rachel exploded. You're just doing this for the house. Don't pretend it's anything else. I felt something settle in me then. Some final brick click into place. You're right, I said. I want the house. Because Grandma wanted me to have a way out if this ever got bad enough. And it did. This is blackmail, Mom hissed. No, I said. This is accountability. I stepped back inside and shut the door. They stood out there for a while. I didn't watch them leave. I didn't care how they looked walking away. 2 weeks later, Mark called. They want to settle, he said. They'll forfeit their claim to the house, move out within 30 days, and agree to cease contact. I waited. They want one condition, he added. I already knew what it was. If you drop the criminal complaint, he said, and agree not to release the video publicly. I let the silence stretch. I could hear a dog barking outside, someone mowing a lawn. The world kept turning. What happens if we go to court? I asked. She could be charged with felony assault, Mark said. There's enough in the footage. She might do time. It's not guaranteed. But it's real. If you settle, she pleads to misdemeanor battery. No jail. Community service. Sealed record. Will she admit guilt? I asked. Yes. On paper. I closed my eyes and breathed in. Thought about Grandma. About the way she used to call me her North Star. About the tea and honey. The quiet room filled with books and lavender. Thought about the way she looked at me like I mattered. We'll take the deal, I said. Rachel got 60 hours of community service. No record. No mugshot. She'll still get to be someone's college roommate. Still get graduation photos and job interviews. Me. I got the house. Clean and simple. I moved in by the end of March. Spent the first week scrubbing away the smell of old arguments and burnt food. Replaced the curtains. Donated the plates. Bought a desk and a proper coffee maker. Found a job doing remote IT work. No more diner shifts. No more night buses. Just peace. One night, Erin came by with wine and some cupcakes from the bakery she works at. Feels weird, she asked. Settling on the new couch. I thought about it. No, I said. It feels earned. We clinked glasses. To freedom, she said. I raised mine. And this time, no one rolled their eyes. If I told you life got perfect after that, I'd be lying. But it got quiet. And sometimes, that's better. I didn't realize how much noise I'd been living with until it was gone. The constant criticism, the backhanded comments, the heavy silence at dinner, all of it evaporated the moment I locked the door behind me and knew they weren't coming back. The first month in the house felt like I'd moved into a museum. Every creak in the floorboard reminded me of arguments. Every chipped tile had its own bitter memory, but I didn't flinch from any of it. I let the ghosts settle while I made space for something new. I repainted the living room, a warm sage green, threw out the ancient recliner my dad claimed was broken in, and added plants I had no idea how to take care of. I burned candles for no reason. I cooked meals just for me and let the dishes pile up without guilt. I didn't owe anyone anything anymore. I could breathe. One night, maybe 3 weeks in, I found myself standing in the kitchen, staring at the old hallway where I'd installed the camera. It was still there, motion triggered, though I didn't really need it anymore. I walked up to it, took it down, and held it in my hands for a long time. That tiny lens had captured the worst day of my life, but it also saved me. Proof had power, something I never really understood until that moment. I placed the camera in a drawer and shut it softly. The past had already done its damage. I wasn't going to let it keep filming reruns. Around that same time, Luke texted me, just a single line. "You good?" I stared at it for 10 minutes before replying, "Yeah." "Are you?" He sent a thumbs up emoji. That was it. I wasn't sure if he meant it or if it was just something he felt obligated to do. I didn't push. I didn't need more apologies from people who watched and said nothing. Still, I left the door open in case he ever grew a spine. Rachel, of course, never reached out. Not directly. But I heard from Mark that she completed her community service without incident and was planning to defer college for a semester. I didn't celebrate that. Honestly, I didn't feel much of anything about it. She'd lost something. Maybe not enough, but something. Mom sent one letter, handwritten, 4 pages, apologizing without ever actually saying she was sorry. The kind of note that sounded like an essay graded on emotional manipulation. Phrases like, "I was only trying to protect our family, and I wish you'd come to me sooner." As if I hadn't screamed with silence for years. I didn't reply. I didn't tear it up either. Just filed it in a folder called Truth, along with the legal docs, the police report, and the memory card containing the footage. Every now and then, I opened that folder, not to relive it, but to remind myself that I hadn't imagined it, that I wasn't crazy, that surviving isn't the same as healing. One weekend in May, Erin invited me to a barbecue at her cousin's place across town. It was warm, the kind of early summer heat that wraps around you like a blanket. I almost said no. Large gatherings made me twitchy now, but she insisted. There will be potato salad and beer, and exactly 0 people who've thrown you down a staircase. I laughed. First real laugh in weeks, so I went. I didn't know anyone there, but no one treated me like I didn't belong. That felt strange and amazing. I met a guy named Ben. Tall, soft-spoken, worked as a carpenter. We talked about nothing for an hour and then exchanged numbers. He texted the next day. "Still thinking about your story about the exploding microwave. You're cursed." I grinned. We got coffee later that week. 1 coffee turned into 3. We weren't rushing anything. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't scared to let someone see me. The real me, not the version I'd been taught to play. The quiet brother, the invisible son, the emotional burden, just Jake, unfiltered. One night on Erin's porch, we sat with our feet up and beers in hand, watching lightning bugs blink in the yard. "Think you'll ever talk to them again?" she asked. "My family." I shook my head. They had 2 decades. They used every minute of it to teach me how little I mattered. "Still," she said, "you didn't just walk away. You torched the bridge. It needed burning." I said. She nodded. "You think you'll ever regret it?" I stared into the dark for a while before answering. I regret trusting them for so long, not leaving sooner, but standing up, holding them accountable. No, I don't regret that. Not for a second. A breeze passed through the trees, soft and steady. I closed my eyes. For once, I didn't see my own body lying at the bottom of the stairs. I saw a man standing up, choosing himself. Finally, 3 months later, I got a call from the family lawyer. It wasn't a number I recognized, but something in my gut told me to pick up. His voice was polite, but I could tell he was uncomfortable. Like even saying my name put a bad taste in his mouth. "Jake, I've been asked to reach out regarding a request from your parents." I didn't say anything, just let the silence stretch. "They're requesting a meeting, in person. They say it's about moving forward." I let out a short breath through my nose. Not a laugh, not quite. "Tell them I said no." "You sure?" "They said they'd come alone." "No, Rachel. No lawyers." Still no. I said, "There's no version of this where I sit down and let them gaslight me in person. That show's over." He hesitated, then said, "Understood. I'll pass it on." And that was that. But it stayed with me, that phrase. Moving forward. Like this was some minor disagreement. Like my fractured wrist, my stolen childhood. The years of emotional erosion were just misunderstandings. There's something surreal about watching people who broke. You try to reset the game board because now the rules no longer benefit them. But I didn't owe them peace. I owed it to myself. So I stayed quiet and moved forward in my own way. I started working part-time at a local community center, just helping out with event planning and youth workshops. Nothing major, but it felt grounding. One of the teens, Marcus, reminded me of Luke at that age. Smart, guarded, funny, in the way that cuts a little too deep. One afternoon, after helping set up chairs for a poetry night, he asked why I wore a brace on my wrist. I told him the truth. Family stuff, I said. He looked at me for a second, then just nodded. Didn't press. But 2 days later, he showed me his sketchbook, full of heavy graphite shadows and half-erased faces. We didn't talk about it. We didn't have to. Pain recognizes pain. It was healing in a way I hadn't expected. Not the dramatic kind, not the I'm cured kind, but the quiet acknowledgement that maybe I wasn't broken beyond repair. Aaron was still a regular presence in my life. One night, we built a bonfire in the backyard, just the two of us, and a six-pack. So, she said, staring into the flames, what now? You've got the house. You've got a job. You've even started smiling without flinching. I laughed. I don't know. Maybe I finally let myself have a boring life. You deserve boring, she said. Boring is safe. Boring is warm meals and locked doors, and nobody calling you dramatic for bleeding. I nodded. Maybe I'll even go back to school. Take a couple of classes. You've always been the smart one. I raised a brow. Says, the girl who skipped town at 18 and somehow landed on her feet. She smirked. Takes one to know one. The next morning, I woke up early and went for a run. Just a slow jog through the neighborhood, past the park, where we used to have picnics before family gatherings turned into landmines. The air was crisp. The sun was just peeking over the rooftops. I felt something loosen in my chest, like I'd been holding my breath for years and finally remembered how to inhale. When I got home, I passed the old linen closet at the top of the stairs, the spot where it all happened. The fall, the fracture, the beginning of the end. I didn't freeze, didn't flinch, just walked past it like it was any other door. Because now it was that night. I sat at my desk and opened a new document, not a lawsuit, not a legal brief, just a blank page. I started writing. Not a journal, not a confession, just thoughts, fragments, memories I wanted to remember on my own terms. Not the way they told it, not the version where I was too sensitive, but the truth. The ugly, beautiful, raw truth. I titled it Fall. Maybe one day I'll turn it into something, a book, a blog, a speech for some kid who thinks no one believes them, or maybe I'll just keep it for myself. A reminder that even when your own blood tries to bury you, you can still climb out, still choose something better. A week later, I got one final text from Luke, just 3 words. I believe you. I stared at it for a long time. Didn't respond. Didn't need to. Some things don't need an answer, just acknowledgement. And sometimes that's enough. So here I am, months later, sitting on the porch of a house I never thought would be mine, sipping coffee from a chipped mug I found at a thrift store, and watching the world keep spinning. I'm not fixed, not whole, but I'm here, standing, healing, living, and that, honestly, feels like a damn miracle. So, what do you think? Did I go too far? Or maybe, just maybe, not nearly far enough?